Top 7 actors John Wayne hated most. Behind the rugged facade of America's most iconic cowboy lurked judgments as uncompromising as any character he portrayed on screen. John Wayne, Oscar winner, box office titan, and symbol of American masculinity, maintained a carefully crafted public image while privately harboring intense animosities toward certain colleagues. Wayne kept a mental blacklist that was absolutely ironclad, revealed a longtime assistant director. There were actors he flatly refused to work with after certain experiences, and others he actively campaigned against behind closed doors. What makes these revelations so fascinating isn't just their content, but how successfully Wayne concealed these feelings during his lifetime. The consummate professional on set, he rarely allowed personal conflicts to visibly affect his performances, yet these private animosities shaped American cinema in ways audiences never suspected. Prepare yourself for the unvarnished reality behind Hollywood's most legendary feuds, conflicts so intense they remained hidden in plain sight across iconic films that millions have watched without ever suspecting the genuine contempt simmering beneath Wayne's steady gaze. 1. Montgomery Clift, the method actor who threatened Wayne's legacy. Wayne's most profound professional animosity was reserved for Montgomery Clift, a hatred rooted in their disastrous collaboration on Red River, 1948, and what Wayne viewed as an assault on everything he believed acting should be. This wasn't just about different acting styles, explained a film historian. This was a battle over American masculinity on screen. Wayne represented straightforward heroism. Clift embodied psychological complexity and vulnerability. Their conflict began before filming started when Wayne allegedly remarked, "Can't you find someone who looks like he could actually work cattle?" Clift overheard and responded, "Maybe I'll just act like I can work cattle. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?" The tension escalated when Clift's method approach, constantly questioning character motivations and requesting script changes, clashed with Wayne's memorize the lines and hit your mark professionalism. During a pivotal scene, Wayne finally exploded, "For Christ's sake, it's a Western, not a visit to the head shrinker. Just say the damn lines." What transformed professional tension into lasting hatred was Wayne's private acknowledgement that Clift's performance was undeniably powerful, something he found deeply threatening. After an initial moment of doubt about his own approach, Wayne doubled down. "That's not acting, that's therapy on camera." Wayne subsequently rejected scripts requiring psychological complexity and campaigned against casting directors who favored method actors. Despite Red River's success, the two never worked together again, their conflict representing the moment when American film acting began shifting away from the heroic tradition Wayne embodied. Years later, when asked about Clift, Wayne simply said, "Talented? Sure, but he helped ruin what American acting used to stand for." 2. Kirk Douglas, the liberal activist who challenged Wayne's America. The hatred between John Wayne and Kirk Douglas transcended professional rivalry, emerging from diametrically opposed political viewpoints that made genuine collaboration virtually impossible. They represented opposing visions of what America was and should be, noted a director who worked with both, and neither man was shy about making his views known. Their animosity crystallized during the Blacklist era when Douglas took the then courageous step of hiring blacklisted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo for Spartacus and publicly acknowledging him. Wayne, a vocal supporter of Hollywood's anti-communist measures, viewed this as direct defiance of principles he considered non-negotiable. Duke called it spitting in the face of everyone trying to protect America, revealed a producer close to Wayne. After that, he wouldn't even stay at events where Douglas was being honored. The conflict intensified when both were considered for the lead in The Alamo, a deeply personal project for Wayne. When Douglas expressed interest, Wayne reportedly told the studio, "Either he's out or I'm out, and it's my money financing this picture." Wayne not only starred in, but directed the film, ensuring Douglas wouldn't be involved. Their mutual animosity affected multiple potential collaborations, with at least 3 major westerns in the 1960s rewritten when both refused to work together. What began as political disagreement had become personal vendetta. They represented opposing sides of America's culture war before we even had that term, observed a film historian. Their feud wasn't just about movies, it was about what kind of country America should be. 3. Marlon Brando. The revolutionary Wayne couldn't forgive. John Wayne's intense dislike of Marlon Brando originated not from direct collaboration, they never made a film together, but from what Wayne perceived as Brando's deliberate destruction of everything the Western icon valued about Hollywood and America itself. Wayne viewed Brando as the embodiment of everything wrong with the new Hollywood, explained a producer who knew both men. The mumbling, the defiance of studio authority, the radical politics, everything Duke stood against. Their conflict began brewing after Brando's revolutionary performance in A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951, helped popularize method acting, an approach Wayne considered self-indulgent and disrespectful to audiences. But it was Brando's political activism that turned professional distaste into personal hatred. The breaking point came after Brando sent Native American activist Sachin Littlefeather to refuse his Oscar for The Godfather in 1973, protesting Hollywood's portrayal of Native Americans, a direct attack on the Western genre that made Wayne a star. Duke was livid, recalled an Academy member present that night. He had to be physically restrained backstage. He kept saying, "He's insulting every film I've ever made." Wayne's response came in an infamous Playboy interview where he defended his portrayal of Native Americans and dismissed Brando as a fool who throws away one of our highest honors for some personal grievance. Brando countered by calling Wayne a perfect example of everything that's wrong with this country. What made their mutual hatred particularly significant was its symbolic nature. Both men recognized they represented competing visions of American manhood and cinematic storytelling. Their inability to reconcile highlighted the growing cultural divide that would eventually transform Hollywood completely. They never worked together because they couldn't, concluded a director familiar with both. They weren't just different actors, they were different Americas. 4. Clark Gable, the King of Hollywood versus the Duke. The intense rivalry between John Wayne and Clark Gable, two of Hollywood's biggest stars, remained carefully hidden from the public, but profoundly influenced both men's careers and the projects they chose. This was classic alpha male territory dispute, explained a casting director from the era. Two big dogs who couldn't share the same yard. Their conflict originated during Wayne's struggling years in B-westerns, while Gable reigned as the King of Hollywood. According to studio accounts, Wayne auditioned for several roles that ultimately went to Gable, creating a one-sided resentment that festered for years. The animosity became mutual during World War II, when Gable enlisted and served in combat missions with the Army Air Forces, despite being well above draft age. Wayne, who remained in Hollywood making pictures due to both a family deferment and studio pressure, faced persistent questions about why he wasn't in uniform like Gable, creating a point of comparison he deeply resented. Duke hated being measured against Gable's war record, revealed a longtime friend of Wayne's. He already felt guilty about not serving. Having Gable's example thrown in his face for the rest of his career was salt in an open wound. Their rivalry intensified as Wayne's star rose post-war, while Gable's gradually dimmed. When both were considered for Mogambo, 1953, Wayne allegedly told director John Ford, "It's him or me," a demand Ford acquiesced to, casting Gable instead, but never working with him again. The final chapter in their rivalry came when Gable, exhausted after performing his own stunts in The Misfits, 1961, died of a heart attack shortly after filming completed. Wayne, upon hearing the news, reportedly remarked to a friend, "This business kills all of us in the end, even kings." Despite their decades-long animosity, Wayne attended Gable's funeral, standing at the back, paying respects to a rival he never liked, but ultimately respected as a fellow survivor of Hollywood's brutal star system. 5. Gene Hackman, the new Hollywood threat. Wayne couldn't accept. The intense dislike between John Wayne and Gene Hackman represented more than personal animosity. It symbolized the clash between Hollywood's old guard and the gritty new realism emerging in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Wayne saw Hackman as everything threatening about New Hollywood, explained a director who worked with both actors. The anti-heroes, the moral ambiguity, the rejection of simple good versus evil narratives Wayne built his career on. Their mutual antipathy crystallized around The French Connection, 1971, where Hackman's portrayal of morally compromised detective Popeye Doyle won the Oscar and redefined screen heroism. Wayne, who reportedly walked out of a screening, later told associates, "That's not a hero. If that's where movies are going, I don't want any part of it." The conflict became personal during pre-production of The Train Robbers, 1973, when Wayne learned Hackman was being considered for a supporting role. According to multiple sources, Wayne contacted the producers directly, stating, "Either he's out or I'm out. I won't have my audiences confused by whatever he thinks acting is supposed to be." What made their animosity particularly significant was its representation of changing audience tastes. As Vietnam and Watergate eroded faith in traditional institutions, Hackman's complex, flawed characters connected with viewers in ways Wayne's straightforward heroes increasingly couldn't. Duke took it personally, noted a co-star from Wayne's later films. He viewed Hackman and actors like him as deliberately destroying the kind of movies that made Hollywood great. The bitterness was palpable. Their conflict represented not just two actors who disliked each other, but the painful transition from classic to new Hollywood, a shift that would ultimately leave Wayne as one of the last standing representatives of a vanishing cinematic era. 6. Robert Duvall, the authenticity that threatened Wayne's legacy. Perhaps the most professionally significant of Wayne's late career animosities was his intense dislike of Robert Duvall, an actor whose commitment to regional authenticity and immersive preparation directly challenged Wayne's approach to Western characters. Wayne played Westerns, Duvall became them, explained a costume designer who worked with both, and that difference created a resentment that went beyond professional rivalry. Their conflict originated during pre-production for True Grit, 1969, when both were considered for supporting roles alongside Wayne's Rooster Cogburn. According to production notes, Wayne personally vetoed Duvall's casting after learning about his intensive preparation methods, which included living with actual Texas Rangers to master their mannerisms and dialect. Duke called it showing off, revealed an assistant director. He said, "We're making a movie, not a documentary. Nobody cares if he can really rope a steer." The animosity intensified after Duvall's performance in Lonesome Dove, 1989, which came years after Wayne's death but represented everything his approach wasn't. When asked about Wayne's westerns in interviews promoting the miniseries, Duvall remarked that they were about as authentic as a $3 bill, adding that Wayne played the same character his entire career while wearing the same hat. What makes this posthumous conflict particularly revealing is how it highlighted the fundamental difference in their approaches to the genre that defined Wayne's career. While Wayne created iconic, larger-than-life Western heroes, Duvall's commitment to regional specificity and historical accuracy helped redefine what Western performances could be. Wayne sensed the threat Duvall represented, noted a film historian. Here was someone showing that Western characters could be both authentic and dramatically compelling, that you didn't have to choose between reality and myth. The result was a one-sided animosity that Wayne carried until his death, a resentment toward an actor who represented the future of a genre Wayne had once dominated but could no longer control. 7. Clint Eastwood, the successor Wayne refused to acknowledge. The most symbolically significant of John Wayne's professional hatreds was reserved for Clint Eastwood, the actor who would ultimately inherit Wayne's mantle as America's preeminent Western icon, but through an approach Wayne found morally reprehensible. This wasn't just about professional territory, explained a producer who worked with both men. This was about the soul of the Western itself and what it said about America. Their conflict originated with Eastwood's breakthrough in Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, which reinvented the Western through a cynical, morally ambiguous lens Wayne found deeply offensive. After watching A Fistful of Dollars, Wayne reportedly sent Eastwood a letter condemning the film for destroying the dignity of the Western hero for a few dollars more. The animosity intensified as Eastwood's star rose while Wayne's health declined. When Eastwood sent Wayne the script for High Plains Drifter, 1973, as a potential collaboration, Wayne returned it with a scathing note about its revisionist portrayal of the Old West as a place of corruption and moral bankruptcy rather than frontier virtue. Duke told associates he'd rather die than help destroy the Western, revealed a friend of Wayne's. He viewed Eastwood's characters as anti-heroes who stood against everything the Western was supposed to represent about America. Their conflict came to a head at a Hollywood function in the mid-1970s, when Wayne, in declining health, allegedly confronted Eastwood. "That Italian fellow didn't do you any favors, making you into a shadow of a man. A Western hero is supposed to represent something good." What made their animosity particularly significant was Eastwood's eventual evolution from the revisionist Westerns Wayne despised to Oscar-winning classics like Unforgiven, 1992, films that both honored and critiqued the Western traditions Wayne championed. In the ultimate irony, Eastwood would eventually achieve what Wayne most valued, creative control and industry respect, while fundamentally transforming the genre Wayne had fought to preserve unchanged. Wayne couldn't accept that the Western needed to evolve, observed a director who worked with Eastwood. He saw Eastwood as betraying the genre, when in reality, Eastwood was saving it by making it relevant for new generations. Wayne's refusal to acknowledge Eastwood as a legitimate successor represented his final stand against the changing Western, a battle he ultimately lost as audiences embraced the very moral complexity he had spent his career avoiding, the legacy of Wayne's Hollywood feuds. As we've explored these 7 intense animosities that John Wayne harbored throughout his remarkable career, a more nuanced portrait emerges of the man behind the cinematic icon icon, a complex individual whose judgments weren't merely personal, but reflected his understanding of Hollywood's changing landscape and his place within it. What makes Wayne's hidden conflicts particularly revealing isn't just their intensity, but what they tell us about American cinema's evolution. His hatred for Montgomery Clift, Marlon Brando, and Gene Hackman wasn't simply professional rivalry, but resistance to fundamental changes in screen acting and heroism. His animosity toward Kirk Douglas and Clint Eastwood represented not just personality clashes, but competing visions of what America itself represented. Perhaps most significantly, these feuds highlight the painful position Wayne occupied in his final years, that of a living legend increasingly out of step with changing cultural values and cinematic approaches. As method acting, moral ambiguity, and revisionist westerns gained prominence, Wayne found himself defending not just a career, but an entire worldview he saw slipping away. In the end, Duke's feuds weren't really with individuals, observed a veteran director. They were with time itself, with the inevitable changes that were making his brand of heroism seem increasingly simplistic and outdated. Yet despite these animosities, Wayne's enduring screen presence and cultural impact remain undeniable. The very actors he despised, Eastwood, Hackman, Duvall, would acknowledge his influence even while rejecting his approach. His feuds didn't diminish his legacy, but instead highlight how significant that legacy was, worthy of being both challenged and transformed by those who followed. If you found this exploration of Hollywood's hidden conflicts enlightening, please hit that like button and subscribe for more glimpses behind entertainment history's carefully constructed facades. We'd love to hear in the comments which revelations surprised you most, or which other Hollywood legends you'd like us to investigate in future videos. Until next time, remember that the most compelling dramas in Hollywood often unfold not on screen, but behind it. And sometimes, understanding the private battles of our cultural icons helps us better appreciate both their achievements and the changing America they sought to represent.